where the drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sandobi hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Pilecki goes dives on the right side. Very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys, Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Pilecki. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. Well, now it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the left car and around those at the same time. At the same time, he's got the inside corner. Will he ride the curb? Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Duna Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will cook the grass. Oh, a 180, no, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernald. Gernald will yield. Lots of smoke picking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be...
Good Sunday evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special presentation of the Classic Lotus 79 Indy 250 broadcast here live from the legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We are joining in at the qualifying on board with Nuno Moreira, one of the drivers taking place. We have a grand total of 36 drivers, I believe, starting for this race. Yes, 36 drivers. Some of the toughest Classic Lotus Grand Prix drivers around the globe, as well as mixed in with some very, very fine IndyCar and oval talent. Do not forget that this race is for charity. This is a charity event, so we shall give a shout out to the Brooke, which is of course a charity for working horses and llamas and other equines, as well as St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So those two causes, we will talk to you about them more as this race goes along. But I am Jonas Pohakka, as per usual, in the commentary booth. Alongside with me is Tapani Linoloto, past 3-time champion in the Classic Lotus Grand Prix Series, and behind the cameras is Eero Husa Forsmoon. Say hi to our viewers.
Hello, friends.
Hi, everyone.
And we are also underway in the qualifying, and Nuno Moreira, who we were at least following at the start, is currently at the 17th position with a 47.786. But let's remember that this is not a standard qualifying. This is not done by the basis of best lap. Instead, we will do it IndyCar style, average of 4 flying laps. And Tapani, this will be very, very interesting indeed.
Yeah, it will be very close in the qualifying, because it's flat out all the way around, and it's very minor details that separate the drivers from each other. We are talking about hundreds and thousands of a second difference between positions, so we'll see what happens.
Indeed so. And also do not forget that you can donate to these fine causes by pressing the pictures under the stream. So you will have a donate link both to the Brooke as well as St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Those are both very, very good causes indeed. And even if you are not interested in donating at this time, please at least make sure to read the stories and what good causes they are giving funds to, because they are both very, very close to my heart personally, as well as the hearts of these drivers who are joining in. And we have Mark Pickford already donating a single pound, £1 per each driver who is taking place in this race for the Brooke, and Andrea Ventura matching the donation with £2 to everyone who is $2 to everyone who is participating for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. So we have already some drivers taking action in order to donate money to those very good causes indeed. And Nuno Moreira actually spun to the wall right now, and he has some difficulty in putting in 4 flying laps. Arto Ehamäki currently in lead with the fastest single flying lap, but it will be interesting to see who has the grand total of 4 flying laps, the average of 4 flying laps fastest at this time. We don't simply know it at this time, trying to do some comparisons, but our timing sheet, as people have probably realized by the overlay running at the top of the track, is indeed the fastest flying lap. So those might not be your final starting positions, but starting position is only indicative of one's 4-lap qualifying pace. Race pace, Tapani, is going to be a whole different deal altogether here.
Yeah, and it's gonna be difficult for maybe some drivers to adjust from the qualifying to the race. Behind the other drivers, the car is gonna push, and the walls are going to be close. And I'm sure we will see some wall contacts and the exits of the 4 turns. So it's gonna be interesting.
Indeed so. And we have your final qualifying results, I believe, in, ladies and gentlemen, and it is Bradley Walters with car number 56 taking the pole position, a driver from Indiana, so it should be a very familiar venue for him indeed. Arto Hämäki starting alongside him in the second position. Then it's Nathan Porter and David McDonald in row 2 ahead of Gernot Fritsch and Alex Milward in row number 3. Mark Bickford joining Rafael Sempruk in row number 4. Randy Hatches, a veteran of this series, as well as Philip Lake, another veteran in this series, starting in row number 5. Then it is Pierre Bourdon, Kardec Pai in row number 6, Ian Carden, Iku Merikalla in row number 7, Fabian Gerber, Andre Ventura, Ken Lasky, Todd Herner, Nuno Moreira, Joachim Bodecker, Gerd Höfer, Marko Kiikka, Kay Turner, Sean Wiltshire, Angelika Pawlowski, Barry West, Teemu Toikka, Kalle Ruokola, Lynn Kinchlow, Teemu Rönkkö, Sam Winton, Steve Sarles, Brendan Parker, Garrett Hickling, John Keefe, and David Azevedo in the final position of this race. So we have 36 drivers, 18 rows of drivers in this race, and that is actually 3 more than would start in real life in the 500, Tapani.
Yeah, well, the closest comparison of this race is, of course, the IndyCar cars on this track. And I suppose the approach is pretty similar. The cars, you can be flat out at least part of the time in free air. Not probably behind other cars, and I'm not sure with a high fuel load. I haven't tried myself, but I'd be interested to see if there are differences in people's approach to the race setup. Maybe someone may try. Oh wow!
Oh, there is a little bit of issues already with Kane Lasky's car. I believe his clutch has failed in the starting formation and he went straight into the wall as a result. That has to be some sort of a mechanical or technical issue for Mr. Lasky. So as a result of that, he is going to have to start, if he can still start his race from the back of the field. Most likely his day is over, and that is very unfortunate indeed. But the rest of the drivers are already underway on this pace lap. So it will be a flying start instead of a standing start. And closest comparison to any real life event would be the Indy 500 as it was run some 40 years ago. And that is going to be very interesting indeed, because we are now on a time machine some 40 years back, and we are on time machine in an oval course, not a road course. So how would you think ground effects? One would have to imagine that the ground effect will not be as crucial here in an oval track as it is on a road course, but is that necessarily the case?
Well, the issue here with the high top speed is that you have to try to get rid of most of the down effects as well as the wings. In real life, the wings are in Indy cars of today are very minor. And they also had some ground effects, but they take some of the parts out for the Indy races. We can't do that here, so we have to get rid of the down effect in some other way, which is the race ride height, so the ground effect is lowered. So, well, yeah, in real life we would also get rid of some of the parts on the bottom of the car, but we have to do what we have here.
Indeed so, and we are just getting ready to fly the green flag here in the classic Lotus Indy 250, and we are underway. Taking a flying start is from the pole position Bradley Walters ahead of Arto Hämäki, then Nathaniel Porter, David McDonald, and Gernot Fritsch. Gernot challenging actually David McDonald coming into turn number 1, and they're still side by side, and now David gets ahead. It will be interesting to see who gets out of the first lap cleanly. We have full course cautions in this race, so it will not be a standard road course race, even by the rules that we are emulating the real-life Indy 500 rule set, of course, for this half-length race. So it looks like a clean first lap so far, no major issues for any of the drivers, and now we will see who has the fastest car on the straight line, who has the fastest car in the corners, and the speeds are already very high indeed, going upwards of 300 kilometers per hour, almost 200 miles per hour on the straight line, and this is just a beautiful slide. Just look at these drivers single file all the way, almost all the way at least, around this legendary race course, but I'm sure that the drivers are going to have different strategies going into this race. Yellows are going to play a big part in this race if we get any yellow flags, and we also have a good battle going on near the front of the field. There is Randy Hatches and there is Ian Card jostling for position, which is the 12th position. Ian Card on the inside going into the treacherous turn number 2, and as they go onto the straight line, it is Ian Card so far ahead, but Randy looks to be having a bit better straight line pull than his English compatriot, and as a result they are still side by side going into turn number 3. And as they come into turn number 3, Ian Card makes use of the inside very well and has the position going into turn number 4, so some good battling all the way around already. Meanwhile, through the front of your field, it is Brady Waters running away with this one so far, but fuel mileage is going to be a big issue going forward in this race, so some drivers may be saving fuel. One driver who is not saving fuel so far is Gernot Fridge, the past 13-time champion in this series, and as a result of that, he is trying to take a position away from Alex Milward, position number 5, but we also have yellow flags out here on the racetrack as a result of an accident. We are trying to figure out who was involved in that one. I do believe there is a spinner on the track, slow car on the track, and as a result of that, Randy Hatches was the one who triggered the yellow flags, and as a result of that, we have our first caution of the race. But Tapani, it's going to be very interesting first 2 laps so far.
Yeah, most of the... Oh, that was an unfortunate incident for Randy. I just watched the replay. Anyway, I was saying something, I believe.
Yes, meanwhile, let's go through the incident that happened between Randy Hatches and Fabian Gerber. Randy just turning in maybe a little bit too early. Fabian not taking all the way to the inside line, instead taking the oval line. And Randy just tapping the right rear tire of Fabian in turn number 1, as a result ending up hard lick into the wall, and we have our first caution of the race. The good thing about that incident, if there are any good things about incidents, is that there was no other driver involved in that one aside from Randy Hatches and Fabian Gerber. So it will be interesting to see what kind of damage Fabian has, and it's also going to be interesting to see whether anyone chooses to pit on this first caution, because in normal circumstances you would not need new tires in these cars after 4 laps. Nor would you need fuel, but they are so close in terms of fuel to the 100 lap limit in this race, to the 100 lap distance in this race, that might be interesting to see. If somebody decides to pit early, and as a result of that getting maybe a gallon of fuel more, maybe 2 gallons of fuel more than the other drivers have, and then not having to pit for the duration of the race.
The tires will last. It's more about the fuel. Of course, with a lighter car, you're just going to be faster through the corners and accelerate faster. So basically, the tires will not be a problem, I believe. That's the word out in the field.
And we also have news that Sean Wiltshire, our broadcast compatriot from earlier in this race, who decides to participate in this race after a long while, has had some, let's put it that way, ring rust, because he has just spun in the main, coming into main straight. I believe it was Teemu Rönkö coming in a little bit too hot as he was catching up back to the pack, and then losing control of his car on the braking and hitting Sean Wiltshire. Very unfortunate incident there indeed, and that is just goes to show the experience difference between these drivers on oval circuits, because being a very accomplished driver on road courses might not necessarily translate well onto the oval side of things, Tapani.
Yeah, it's a very different beast altogether. The driving skills are can be translated to the oval side, but of course all the little bits about yellows and the rules and how to run in traffic, in draft, in the corners, stuff like that are a bit new if you're not used to the oval side.
Indeed so, and if I look at the entry list right now, there is interesting to note that some drivers, as those who have watched our classic Lotus Grand Prix broadcasts, will know names such as, if you look at from the lead, Arto Ihamäki, Nathan Leporter, David McDonald, Gernot Fridge, Alex Milward, Mark Pickford, and so on. But Bradley Walters, is more of an oval veteran, I shall say. Some IndyCar drivers in this field as well, like Pierre Bourdon, a very experienced IndyCar driver, running in position number 11, the man from Montreal, as well as other drivers. So it's an interesting mix of those who know this car very well and those who know the tricks of the trade in oval courses. So who do you think has the advantage here? The oval ringers, so to speak, or those who have the experience from the oval courses, or those who know this car better? What do you think, Tapani?
I think the IndyCar veterans are very strong. Bradley, in yesterday's practice race was very confident. He was also running the lead there. I'm not sure. I'm not very familiar with the IndyCar guys, who they are.
Well, basically anyone
do
not
you know
running
who they are in this field?
I know a couple of names confirmed IndyCar drivers, at least as I mentioned, Pierre Bourdon. I would also imagine that most of the names who are not familiar from the Lotus 79 are IndyCar drivers who are in this race. That's at least my assumption. Going forward, we are not of course familiar with the IndyCar drivers as much as we are with the Lotus 79 drivers, but we'll move along in the broadcast and try to confirm the origin of these drivers. Also interesting to note is that both Barry West and Lynn Kinchlow have pitted already in this race, so they decided to take the gamble from the back of the field and pit already at this point, and that is very interesting indeed. So 2.6 seconds and 7.8 seconds was the duration of the pit stops, and I would like to imagine that one of these drivers took tires and other driver didn't, and that explains the difference, because 2.6 seconds is a really short stop. I believe just a splash of fuel.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Sounds like that indeed. And the pace car, the new pace car in the racing simulation, the Roof R12R, rather, is already pinching out of the racetrack, moving out of the racetrack, and now it's Bradley Walters pushing the throttle, and we are underway again. Lap number 6 going into lap number 7 of this race. Bradley Walters holding on to the lead so far. Arto Ihamäki in his tow, Nathan Laporte third, 10, Stephen McDonald, Gernot Fritsch, Alex Milward, Mark Pickford, Phil Blake, Kartik Pai, and Rafael Sempro rounding out your top 10 in this race. So, a very different field from what we are usually seeing at Classic Lotus Grand Prix, of course. The rather different setting will explain quite a lot of that. So let's see how these leading drivers handle the first lap and whether we have a clean first lap. Once again, we have Pierre Bourdon and Iko Merikalla running side by side for the what is the 14th position in this race. So Pierre Bourdon taking a very poor start indeed, and Iko Merikalla running side by side with him for the duration of the time being. Yes.
Fabian Gerber had a very good start, but he passed on the left before the start-finish line, and he's coming into the pits.
Yeah, he is coming into the pits, so I missed that as well. So Tapani, thank you for pointing that out for me. And we also have the ongoing battle between Iko Merikalla and Pierre Bourdon, and also Nuno Moreira taking advantage of Iko Merikalla not able to take the position. So the driver who we do know very well, Iko Merikalla, is a NASCAR veteran as a matter of fact, so he's not from the IndyCar but rather from the NASCAR side of things. And we also have yellow flag out on the racetrack. On the back of your field there is another accident. And we have Kalle Ruokala on his roof in what is, I believe, turn number 2. Oh, he went wide in turn number 1, understeering a little bit in the toe of Keith Horner. And as a result of that, Kalle Ruokala just tapping the wall and getting stuck into the wall, and then hitting the one hole in the wall and ending up on his roof. A terrible accident from Kalle Ruokala, almost reminiscent of that Kenny Bragg had in 2003 in real life IndyCars. But Kalle Ruokala having a very wild ride, and his race is over. So one of the favorites in this race, at least if you look at the results from Classic Lotus Grand Prix Series, is out of your motor race. And we also have yellow flags out on the racetrack once again. So first 10 laps are soon completed, and you're inside of the first lap so far, Tapani.
Kalle Ruokala's accident was something that I was expecting to happen at some point, and I'll expect same type of accidents happening later too, tapping the wall in the exit, just pushing wide in the traffic usually. Probably not in free air, but we're gonna see more of that.
Indeed. So Indeed so, indeed so. And we also joining us in the broadcast booth is Sean Wiltshire, who was one of the drivers in this race, also a very familiar broadcaster to each and every one of you, doing better job in that department than in his race so far. Sean, what happened?
I'm still mad about it, but I was wrecked under caution. You know,
Yeah, that
it's
we did
one of
know.
those
So,
things.
yeah, one of those things that happen easily in the race. So, will you be joining us in the broadcast booth for the duration of the rest of the race?
Yeah. Let me launch the sim again.
Okay, glad to hear that as well. So, faking pit stops, and that is also something familiar from the NASCAR side. Keith Herner and Angelica Paulowski faking their pit stop, trying to lure the drivers behind them to the pit lane. David Acevedo and Lynn Kinchlow are taking a real pit stop at this time. So it's gonna be interesting to see, Tapani, that some of these drivers are already coming into the pit lane, and perhaps it's a very clever plan, especially if you are in the back of the field for the fuel mileage in this race. But let's remember that this is not necessarily a 250-mile race, because it is also time limited, and the time limit is 1 hour and 25 minutes. So it's not necessarily going to be a 100 lap race, but rather a timed race. And the more we run under yellows, the more it's going to benefit those who choose not to pit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's the amount of yellows we need to reach the time limit, but we need 100 laps is under an hour, plenty, maybe 50 minutes in green. So we need quite a bit of yellows to reach time limit.
Indeed so. But anything can happen, usually will, if it's a big field race. And I would like to take this opportunity on our second yellow of this race to zoom the cameras in on driver number 28, Todd Herner, as well as Keith Herner, who you briefly saw in the pictures earlier on. So Keith Herner, Todd Herner, and there is an interesting story about them. Because Todd Herner is the son of Keith Herner, and he is also a leukemia survivor. And they are proudly running the Heroes Forever colors on their cars. And Heroes Forever is a non-profit organization that Keith Herner helped to create for kids with cancer in Colorado and neighboring states. Make sure to look at their website, heroesforever.org, and you can read their story in the About Us Heroes board of directors as well. A very inspiring story, and we are glad to see both of them out here on the racetrack, especially Todd Herner for surviving such a terrible tragedy for their lives. So it's interesting story, and it's inspiring to hear about these surviving stories as well. And once again, I would also like to remind you about the possibility and the causes that we are driving this race for. This is a charity race for a couple of very good causes. The Brooke, helping donkeys transform lives. And let's just tell you briefly about the Brooke, because the amazing contribution donkeys and mules make to humanity is not always recognized. So the Brooke are a devoted champion of these beautiful creatures, and people's lives are transformed every day through their hands-on approach to education, training, and donkey-assisted therapy. And if you are wondering about, donating, if you are thinking about the problems of donating, well, donating through chest giving is simple, fast, and totally secure, and you can donate to them by clicking that link below our stream broadcast. You can always donate to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital as well. We will tell you more about St. Jude's Children's Hospital for the duration of this race, as we have the opportunities to do so, especially under cautions when there is not much else happening out there on the racetrack. But right now it seems that our pace car is coming in once again, and we are going to have the race underway for you viewers. Lap 11 going into lap 12 of this 100 lap race. So Bradley Walters leading the field once again to green flag, and we are at racing speeds. He is being followed by Arto Hämäki, who is followed by Nathan Laporte, Dave McDonald, Gernot Fritsch, and let's just watch and listen to these cars for the first lap of this race. Not the first lap of this race, but the first lap of this green period. Oh, big trouble for Ian Card in turn number 1. Car number 666, Ian Card, already getting very loose as he hit Rafael Sempruk in turn number 1. A little contact, but Ian Card able to save that very well, and he is right now in a battle with Pierre Bourdon. And Angelica Paulos getting past Keith Turner as well, and we also have other good battles going on throughout your racetrack. So it's interesting to see who have their cars tuned more for the straight line speed and early on performance, and who have their cars tuned more for the performance under a lighter fuel load. Nuno Moreira and Ian Card side by side heading into turn number 1, and Nuno Moreira able to take position away from Ian Card. So he is right now in position number 12. Ian Card relegated to P number 13 in this race. More forward in your pack, there is the single file pack behind the race leader of Brady Walters, who is doing 312 kilometers per hour to the end of the main straight. Arto Hämäki, interestingly, doing a little bit faster, not much, but just a little bit faster. He is no longer enjoying the tow, so the draft distance in these cars is about 0.6 seconds in at least the road courses. But if Sean Wiltshire could perhaps open that up a little bit, is there a big difference between the draft in oval courses and road courses in terms of the distance?
Yeah, for sure. This is you should be in the draft at about 1 second to 1.2 seconds to start catching the draft here.
And of course, the closer you are, the better the draft.
Indeed. So we are also watching the battles between Andre Ventura, Marco Kika, Joachim Bödecker as well for positions 15, 16, and 17 and 18 as well. Todd Herner running in front of them, and further front in your field it is Cardiff Pye and Philip Lake battling for position number 8 out turn racetrack. Philip Lake in P number 8 taking a very interesting line through turn number 4, and Cardiff Pye behind him following in position number 9, and on the outskirts of the top 10 it is Rafael Sempruk, who is doing a really solid job for himself so far. He is one driver who might be interested in running the Classic Lotus Grand Prix Series next season. And we also have yellow flags out there on the racetrack, and we have car on the roof in turn number 1. That is the cause of the yellow flags. And I believe that was the driver of, let's see if we can bring confirmation here. Iku Merikalla is out on turn number 1, and that is a very sad sight indeed. So Iku Merikalla actually hitting the wall on the main straight at the 300-yard marker. So he was just tapping the wall a little bit, getting a little bit too close to the wall as he was trying to get the optimal line into turn number 1. The front of the car raised into the air, he loses control of the car, hits the inside wall, spins hard, and then is hit hard by another Finn, Marco Kiikka, and sent flipping into the catch fence. And that is even more reminiscent of the accident of Kenny Bragg than the accident we saw earlier with Kalle Ruokola. So a very high-speed accident indeed, and I'm sure that is also the end of the race for both Iku Merikalla and Marco Kiikka as well. Hard damage for both.
Marco seems to have escaped with just a surprise heart attack.
Oh, so Marco Kiikka actually escaping without damage from that one. Very lucky indeed there. So technical difficulties for Iku Merikalla, car number 107, and as a result of that he could not see where he was going and hit that wall. So a hard incident for for Iku Merikalla, as well as Marco Kiikka involved in that one, escaping without damage, and Iku Merikalla's race is over, and that is a sad sight indeed, because Iku Merikalla was one of those drivers I was expecting perhaps a surprisingly good performance in this race, because he has driven one of the few drivers who has actually driven the Lotus 79 Indy Ovals. He was participating in the Phoenix Official Week a couple of seasons ago, and he is also a very experienced driver from the oval side of things, racing in the Trailnet series. But right now he is out of the race, and he is one of the casualties of this race so far, who are Ken Lasky, Randy Hatz's son Wiltshire, Kalle Ruokola, and Iku Merikalla for the duration of this race. So we have 5 drivers already out of this race. And we also have some pit stops. Garrett Hickling, as a matter of fact, stopping on the inside of the track, coming towards the pit lanes, then stopping to the inside of the track, and I do believe There is one interesting oval side. We'll see if he continues in about a minute, and if yes, my theory would be confirmed. Let's not say that so far. But I have one interesting theory as to why a driver would stop out there on the racetrack like that.
The word is that Medical had technical difficulties, which caused the accident.
Yeah. I said that just a minute ago, but
okay.
Thank you for confirming that, Tapani.
You don't need to have technical difficulties to do that. I mean, there's no room for error once you get that close to the wall.
That is a good point too, Sean. That is a good point indeed. Sam Winton also having a lot of damage. He's actually limping out of the turn number 1, and his car is very heavily damaged, and I'm trying to figure out the reason why.
He
under yellows, yeah.
Yeah, he just went too hot into the pacing line and lost control during braking.
And there's a good comment from one of the drivers that somehow it feels like pacing is more dangerous than actually racing on green. And it can be dangerous.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, yeah, you can. And it's very interesting because you would think that racing around 120 kilometers per hour is easy. But when an oval setup has no ground effect practically and very little wings, the car can be very eerie, especially under braking. It can be very difficult, Sean.
Just got to pay attention.
And we also have Sam Winton coming into the pit lane with a very broken car indeed, attempting to fix that car to the best of their abilities. And it's very interesting to see that he was actually able to get that car because the chassis is bent all the way. Actually able to get that car into the pit lane in the first place. A very courageous performance from him. Let's see if the mechanics can fix that car to a racing condition or if he has to retire from the race at lap number 18. So, the pace car's lights are off and we are underway once again at the end of this lap. Bradley Walter is still in the lead as he has done throughout your race. He started from the pole position, had a very good and stable setup already in the qualifying, and that has transformed into a very good race performance as well. Arto Ihamäki is still in the second place, Nathaniel Porter in third, then David McDonald in fourth, Gernot Fritsch, Alex Milward, Mark Bickford, Phil Blake, Kartik Pai and Rafael Sempro rounding out your top 10. What would be an interesting note that you will bring out from the race so far, Sean?
It's kind of a stop-starty kind of nature. I don't think anyone's really gotten to a rhythm yet, except for Bradley. I'm sure he's enjoying all this. Yeah, it's just kind of like stop and start. I don't think anyone's really gotten into what they can actually do with the car so far.
Indeed, because it's gonna be a learning experience for a lot of these drivers. Some are very accustomed to running oval courses with open wheel cars, others not so many. And I can attest to the fact that it's not as easy as it looks, but the pace car is off the circuit and we are underway at lap 18, coming into lap number 19, and as per usual, it is Bradley Walters in the lead, followed by Arto Ihamäki and other cars already mentioned for the duration of this broadcast. Let's see how the first lap will form as we are coming into turn number 1. Already Gernot Fritsch and Alex Milward close to each other, as are a couple of other drivers as well further back on your field. We have the ongoing battle between Ian Card and Nuno Moreira forming once again, and it's interesting to see that Nuno perhaps has a little bit of difficulty getting underway, but once he does, he can be mighty fast indeed. Pierre Bourdon already looking for a chance to perhaps get past Rafael Sempro for position number 10. Let's hope that we can get a longer green run this time so we can really see how the setups of these drivers and the ability of these drivers differs throughout a longer run. There's also some battle involving Joachim Bodecker and Andrea Ventura as well. Joachim Bodecker able to hold on, actually passing Andrea Ventura, starting from P number 17. There's also at the front of your pack a good battle, Pierre Bourdon and Rafael Sempro. We mentioned that earlier, running side by side. Oh, hitting! They touch, and Rafael Sempro is in the wall at turn number 1. A yellow flag is out, ladies and gentlemen. And I believe Rafael was trying to hold his line, and Pierre Bourdon coming a little bit too hot into turn number 1. Rafael then hitting the wall, spinning sideways, and there is also another accident as a result of that, and that is involving the drivers of Steve Sallis, Teemu Rönkö, as well as Fabian Gerber. So let's see what happened there. I do believe one of these drivers coming a little bit too hot to the scene of the accident. Teemu Toikka just braking quite early, seeing smoke ahead of him. Teemu Rönkö failing to take sufficient evasive action. So Teemu Rönkö hitting the backs of those drivers, and also involved in that one is Fabian Gerber. So, first big one so far in this race, and has a lot of casualties. We'll try to go through them as we see drivers entering into the pit lane, but Tapani, a very unfortunate incident indeed.
Yeah, it was pretty similar to the Randy Hatch's incident earlier. It seems that turn one entry is a difficult place. Well, it's probably the most difficult corner on this track anyway. Or
Yeah,
maybe turn two.
Definitely for traffic, it's definitely the entry is hard, and also floating up into the wall if you have understeer. I think that patience is goes a long way here, though.
That it will, and perhaps we are witnessing some lack of patience from some of these drivers. Either way, Rafael Semper is in the pit lane, as is Fabian Gerber, as is Teemu Rönkö as well. So those drivers are at least taking repairs, if not out of the race trolley. And in the oval side of things, Sean, I think even minor damage could be very affecting to your race performance.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you take any aero damage here, then your race is pretty much done. I mean, there's no in an IndyCar race or whatever open wheel wing car race. This you won't be able to get up to speed.
And also many drivers coming into the pit lane at this time. Perhaps to attest some of those damages, Pierre Bourdon coming into the pit lane, at least he might have minor damage from that incident. Let's see if we have any others. We also have one other driver, I believe, coming into the pit lane, and that was Teemu Toikka, who was damaged in the course of that incident, and Brendan Parker as well as Lynn Kinslow coming into the pit lane. So 4 drivers in the pit lane, and for Teemu Toikka that was a very, very short pit stop indeed. Not much repairs that could be done at that stage of the race, but he lost already so much ground that it's better to make sure that you have enough fuel to run to the end of this race than to stay back and pray for the best at this point.
Yeah, just take it easy for a while, really. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. Taking it easy is a solid plan so far in this race. Of course, cautions breed cautions, which is a pseudonym very, very familiar from the oval side of things. Oval side of things indeed, because once the pack is formed, once there are packs of cars, some on the back may be actually faster at race pace than the guys at the front of the field. So they want to overtake, and they want to overtake as quickly as possible, and that is going to lead to some incidents. As we get longer green runs, we are able to see some fuel mileage racing that is very familiar to the IndyCar indeed, and for the Lotus 79 as well on this track. And we are also able to see what these drivers we are able to see the long courses in this race, as well as other things that affect the long performance on this race. I hope personally that we are not seeing as many cautions for the later part of this race than on the front of the field. But we still have Bradley Walters in the lead of this race, Arto Hämäkin in the second place, then Nathaniel Porter, David McDonald, and Gernot Fritsch rounding out your top 5.
Well, usually once you get some people that your wreckers usually, and then once you get those out, then you usually have a pretty good race.
Indeed so, and I do believe also that the lights are out on the pace car, and as a result of that, we are ready to get this race underway very soon indeed. Briefly mentioning that you can donate to the Brooke as well as St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital by clicking the links on the bottom of our stream. So just below our stream there are 2 links, and you can click on those pictures actually, and then you can donate to these very, very good causes, of which I heartfeltly recommend everyone to at least take a look at, because we do this race for charity and raise awareness on these 2 very, very fine causes indeed. That is why these drivers race. And I personally am actually very glad to see these kind of events being organized. It is good to see that drivers are coming together for some very, very good causes indeed. So 25 drivers still on the lead lap in this race. Brenton Parker being the last of them, and the leader is still Bradley Walters, and as the pace car escapes out of the way, we are ready to get underway once again in this race. And remember, these cars are doing almost 200 miles per hour to the end of the straight, perhaps even reaching the magic marker of 200 miles an hour as they are in the draft, and as the cars get lighter, we are going forward. Those are the kind of speeds that you don't usually see in the Lotus 79 series. I would say that 170, 180 miles an hour is usually the maximum speed of these cars, but not in this case, Sean.
Right. No, this is pretty special to go 200 miles, almost 200 miles an hour. You're right. Usually, even on the longest straight at Le Mans, 24-hour Le Mans, it wasn't quite this fast.
No, not at all. And there's also Philip Blake getting past Mark Pickford and good backforming behind them as a result of that. Philip Blake leading the way in P number 7, then it is Mark Pickford in P number 8, Kartik Pye in P number 9, Nuno Moreira, Ian Card and Todd Herner involved in the battle as well. So we have Ian Card very close to the back of, once again, the driver of Nuno Moreira. And it is Ian Card and Nuno Moreira battling it out once again, as they have been throughout the course of this race. And it's very interesting to see who of these drivers will come out on top. Ian Card and Nuno Moreira both are very experienced in this car from the road courses, and they have very distinct and different driving styles. We will get in depth with those as the race goes forward, but it is still Bradley Walters in the lead of this race. It's also going to be interesting to see if we get a longer green run, how the fuel mileage is going to affect these cars, and where the leaders, who have not pitted yet on the course of this race, can make it to the finish on fuel. That is what the pack markers, who are currently those drivers who have already pitted and filled their car with fuel, are hoping for a fuel mileage race. That is what their bet is going to be on. Also, another interesting note is how fast those drivers in the back of your field who were near the front at the qualifying can rise up and challenge back in this race. One good example will be Pierre Bourdon in car number 37, starting in 11th place and currently in the 24th position. Pierre Bourdon taking it very carefully so far, reaching about 317 kilometers per hour to the end of the straight. There is a little bit of closer battle between David Acevedo and Steve Charles, as well as the battle in front of them, Barry West and John Keefe battling it out. These are around positions 19, 20 and so on so forth in this race. Teemu Toikka is also involved near that battle as well. They are now side by side for the 19th position in this race, and Barry West getting the overtake down on John Keefe, able to rise up back to the 19th position in this race. So that is done and dusted. Let's see how if John Keefe can rise back up, or whether he is content on running behind Barry West, who is of course very involved and very experienced driver from the Lotus 79 Classic Lotus Grand Prix series. There is also a good backforming in the middle of your race pack, and it is rising all the way to P number 8 now. Interesting to note is Philip Blake has seemingly a lot more pace than Mark Pickford so far. Mark Pickford losing the draft quite quickly on him, Kartik Pye and Nuno Moreira as well as Ian Card following him along. So I believe the best course of action, Tapani, so far for a lot of these drivers in the middle of your pack is to just follow the driver ahead. Let's see what they can do, perhaps try to save some fuel. No point trying to race position so far if the speed difference isn't that big.
Yeah, I think most of the drivers are running very similar setups. Just looking at the leader, Bradley Walters, his cornering speeds are a few kilometers per hour faster than Arto behind, so I think Bradley has done some tricks for the setup. Otherwise, it seems people are running very similar setups, and No, if you go too wide and battle it out, you're gonna lose the draft to the front of you, and that's gonna hurt.
Yes, and Cardiff
Run.
Pie also battling it out with Mark Pickford, making a pass into turn number 1 for position number 8, so Cardiff Pie seemingly has good pace so far. I remember Cardiff Pie actually from the Skip Barber race series, having raced against him, and that was almost 2 years ago when I raced actively against Cardiff Pie. He is now, let's just say, getting his feet a little bit in the Lotus 49 and Lotus 79 series, doing some very good performance indeed in this classic race car, so it is no surprise to see him participating in this special event as well, and he is doing very well for himself so far. In position number 8, getting past Mark Pickford and well within the range of top 10. And we also have Todd Herner behind Ian Carlin. Remember, Todd Herner very involved. He is a cancer survivor, and he is also surviving this race very well so far, passing Ian Card on the inside in the main straight. They are side by side coming towards the famous Yard of Bricks, getting past it now, and in turn number 1 it is Todd Herner now ahead of Ian Card. So Todd Herner rising into position number 11 and looking at the back of that pack ahead of him, Nuno Moreira, Mark Pickford and Cardiff Pie as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the battle for positions 8, 9, 10 and so forth will evolve at this race again. And Tapani, I believe you were saying something.
Yeah, I think Ian was very smart to let Todd by in the turn 1, just so that he wouldn't lose the draft by driving too wide for no reason at all. So just keep you have to keep the pace with the rest of the field, so you can keep it in a line with all the others. Choose your battles carefully. Take the long view into things.
It would actually be faster if you can work with somebody. Say, you draft somebody, you get a run, you get past them, the next lap they do it to you. If you slingshot yourself around the track, you can actually catch up to the leader.
Indeed. And that drafting and draft tactics are something very important on the oval side of things especially. One other interesting thing to note between the differences between the IndyCar drivers and the Classic Lotus Grand Prix drivers is etiquette and cornering. Now, there are significant differences between how cornering and overtaking is handled on the oval side versus the road side. On the road side, it can be pretty much more straightforward. Drivers are used to battling side by side and using the race course differently. The car on the inside is expected to hold on to the inside unless he is already clear of the driver behind, but that might not be necessarily the case on the oval side of things. Sean, Tapani, either one of you can chime in that one.
Well, okay, you can go too wide here, but it's not advisable. Like the car on the outside is, if you get too high into the grayer area, you're gonna be offline, you're gonna hit the wall. That's just gonna happen. And also the car on the inside, he's really got to chop his throttle to stay on the inside. He might, wash up anyway. Going this fast with this little downforce, this is really a one-lane track. So you got to keep that in mind. When you're going for an overtake, you got to try to make it as clean as possible, but also you also have to have some cooperation from the guy you're passing.
Indeed so, and there was already some exchanges between drivers before the race, just discussing the difference between running an oval and running on the road courses. So, of course, some drivers from the other side of the pond, so to speak, from my perspective, of course. For Sean, it will be your side of the pond. Having discussions and about the differences between oval and road side of things, but these drivers all very clean and all experienced drivers as well. And now that we cut the couple of, let's just say, mandatory incidents that are going to happen at the start of every race out of the way, so to speak, we are having ourselves a very good and enjoyable motor race. But I am just stunned, absolutely stunned by the pace of Mr. Bradley Walters in car number 56 running at the front of your field so far. He is very, very fast and getting even faster.
Yeah. I think he's got the setup nailed, and he's just able to stay in his own world. I think Arto and he needs to work with the guy behind him.
You think?
If they're going to catch up to Bradley, which I don't know if they're going to be able to now, but yeah, they definitely need to get a draft party going.
So, speaking of draft parties and speaking of running the draft in various cars and so on, how does exactly benefiting from the draft of other driver work for the benefit of our viewers who might not be aware of such thing going on, because it is not something you usually see on the classic Lotus Grand Prix. You see it perhaps on the road side of things in slower cars, such as the skip barber. You can do that. That is a very familiar tactic, but not necessarily so in the classic Lotus Grand Prix side of things. So how can you and another driver, so for example Arto Ihamäki and Nathaniel Porter here, what could they do different if they would want to benefit from the draft of each other? As I believe we also have a battle between Angelika Pawlowski and Gerd Höfer for position number 14, and it is Gerd Höfer getting past, and we also have Joachim Bödecker, who has already pitted in this race, so perhaps he thought that pitting now would be in the best of his interest, that or he just plain and simply ran out of fuel. Very interesting tactic either way.
So, in answer to your question, Bradley's going probably about 196 miles an hour into turn 1. If Harto and Nathaniel can work it out where like they can pass each other on every lap, so like going into turn 1, they can, in a draft, they can be going up to 200 miles an hour. So you're increasing your speed by just slingshotting yourself around the track and like changing back and forth. That's one way.
Yes, and that is one way you can increase your pace. Meanwhile, Joachim Bödecker still on the pit lane, so he has to have some sort of technical or mechanical difficulties in this race, because that is a way longer pit stop than would be normally advisable. But Joachim Bödecker was running a very solid pace indeed. Before that, he was hanging to the back of Marko Kiikka in the train. But now he is still in the pit lane, and I don't see any visual damage, and now he is also out of your motor race. So I believe some sort of mechanical or technical issues. And there is also a very good battle going on indeed between Mark Pickford, Todd Herner, and Nuno Moreira. Ian Card also following suit. So Todd Herner looking to make hay while the sun shines. He is right behind Mark Pickford. This very brave young man, Todd Herner, in car number 28, looking to bring out the best of himself and the best performance possible, challenging the organizer of this race, of course, Mark Pickford. And Mark Pickford, a Lotus 79 veteran, very familiar with this car. And they are being followed by Ian Card. So Ian Card looking to stay behind them, looking to just keep the car on the road, keep the car going forward, and see if Todd or Mark make mistakes. Meanwhile, behind him, Marko Kiikka is not familiar with the plan at all. Challenging Ian Card going into turn number 1, backs out of it before it results in anything undesired, so to speak. And that is also going to open the eyes of Ian Card, I believe, Tapani, because Ian Card has to now be aware of the fact that he has Marko Kiikka running behind him. And even if Ian Card would want to just stick behind Mark Pickford and Todd Herner, seeing what they do, that might not necessarily be in line with the plan that Marko Kiikka has in mind.
Yeah, it's a nice quartet going on. I'm not sure this looks like going to be a long green run, so just work with the guys around Jude.
And also Todd Herner trying to overtake and actually not getting past on Mark Pickford. So Mark Pickford trying to overtake Todd Herner going in turn number 1. Nuno Moreira and Kartik Pai also involved in a battle against each other. So it's gonna be getting a little bit more lively, but Tapani, do feel free to proceed.
Yeah, now it's up to Todd to catch up with a couple of guys in front. There's it's like a second or two difference, so it's not, they're not in the draft, but if they work together, maybe they'll catch them up, and then they have a new battle on their hands.
Indeed. So now Nuno Moreira getting the overtake done on perhaps Kartik Pai coming into turn number 1 on the inside. Kartik Pai breaking early and allowing Nuno Moreira to take the racing line. Also very good job. And I must say, very good job of Nuno Moreira on how he was able to hold his line on the inside, and that is very interesting. I find that very interesting because perhaps now that the car is a little bit lighter, he is also able to get it working there. And if Nuno Moreira is starting to get accustomed on how you run these oval races and how you get car working, oh boy, he is going to be someone who can potentially catch Philip Blake as well and become a very fast driver, because look at the difference and the gap that is already forming between Nuno Moreira and Kartik Pai, as Nuno was able to get that overtake done. I do believe that Kartik Pai is still enjoying the draft. And now Todd Herner, what he has to do is try to catch up to those two before Nuno starts running away, because he has the potential to now run away from Mark Pickford and Ian Card as well as Marco Hica here. He has already formed a little bit of gap between himself and Mr. Pickford. Ian Card right now running behind Mark Pickford, and he must be judging the situation very carefully indeed, Sean.
Yeah. One of the things that is interesting that maybe people don't know is just like how, I mean, if you're watching this, you're thinking that like, okay, they got the foot planted and they're turning left. But the precise line that you run will shave off tenths. And also throttle control in traffic especially is very, very important. It's very, very skillful, and Nuno should have an advantage there because he's, you know, obviously an alien driver.
No, he's not.
Oh, Todd Herner went into too hot into turn one and was almost into the wall in the exit, but he managed to keep it together.
As we established, he is brave indeed. He is brave as a driver and brave, very brave for other reasons as well. And if you're wondering why I said Nuno Moreira is not an alien driver, he has the pace of an alien driver, but he is not in possession of the Finnish passport. And we also have one driver coming into the pit lane, and I believe, if I heard correctly on the spotter, that is Gerd Höfer, and it is car number 31, Gerd Höfer from position number 14, coming into the pit lane, and that is very interesting indeed. That is very interesting because other drivers are showing no troubles with their fuel mileage so far. We heard that some drivers may be running with full tanks of fuel close to 100 laps, so close to a full race distance with the fuel. Now that is not the case apparently with Gerd Höfer. Let's see if he can get out of the pit lane as soon as possible. The answer is no, it's taking a long while, and the car is not raced either. So I believe perhaps some technical difficulties for Mr. Höfer, perhaps some mechanical issues. 16 seconds and he is out of the way, so either a lot of fuel or some repairs, perhaps both. Now, how could you, Tapani, adjust setup in the middle of the race in this car?
Well, if you're pitting, you have the option to change tire pressures. Out of the pits, you can adjust your anti-roll bars front and back if you have balance issues. So those are, of course, brake balance, but you don't use much brake here, so that's a moot point. So those are the options. So you can tune the car a bit if you're out of balance.
So as the race went on for my setup, my tires would get a little hot, so it would get looser. So as the race was going to go on, I was going to tighten or stiffen the front anti-roll bar.
But that you can do while driving, correct?
Yep, sure can.
Yes. So, another interesting note to point out, as Barry West is slowing down at the exit of the pit lane. He was one of those drivers who had pitted. He had a very quick pit stop, but he is slowing down at the exit of the pit lane. We'll have to see if these are technical, mechanical difficulties or something else for Barry West. Slowing down so far, and also Ian Card, I believe, is involved in a battle. And he passed Mark Pickford, so that ends the speculation of Ian Card's tactics. I believe he was eager to get past Mark Pickford because he was noticing that. Oh, and we have yellows out on the racetrack, and I do believe that might be the slow car of Barry West. And that is indeed the slow car of Barry West causing the yellow flags. Now I'm wondering if he has technical mechanical difficulties here, because as soon as he got out of the pit lane, he was just going slower and slower. Looks like a broken throttle pedal or something. something that happened in his cockpit.
No,
That is
sounds
not
like
normal.
Like he's out of fuel.
Yeah, it does seem like he's out of
maybe he
fuel, but
didn't
he's
take fuel.
pitted.
No.
Yeah, you could opt to not take it, and he might have not taken any.
Yeah, that's my guess. Maybe he forgot to just fuel the car.
Yeah, that might be. That might be. Yeah, and it is as confirmed.
That's unfortunate indeed.
That is very unfortunate for Mr. Barrett. So that triggered a yellow flag, and as a result of that, he is going to have to ride the tow truck back into the pit lane. Now, what this will mean is that not only we most likely have a timed race on our hands now, but we also have an opportunity for some of these drivers to come into the pit lane. Now, your running order at the end of last lap was Bradley Walters in the lead, and he is very frustrated for this yellow flag because everyone knows now that he has got the pace. Now it's Arto Hämäki who has to match his start and has to try and challenge him. Nathaniel Porter is in the third place, ahead of Gernot Fritsch in fourth place. David McDonald fifth, and it's Alex Milward, Phil Blake, Nuno Moreira, Kartik Pai, and Todd Herner rounding out your top 10. Interestingly so, his father, Keith Herner, is in the 14th position, so this father-son battle is turning to the way of the junior. And also leaders coming into pit lane. Now everyone is bidding, but someone at the back might have the advantage. I'm interested to see who is the driver who is not going to bite the bullet. It is Gerd Hofer, who actually had a green flag pit stop, but he is also one lap behind, so he can't pit at this time by. So Andrea Ventura is one driver who is not in the pit lane, so he is effectively in the lead of your motor race so far.
It seemed it was very hard to get positions during the green flag run because basically you're losing time passing and then it's very hard to catch the guy in front. So if you can make the pit strategy work, it's going to be a very good advantage.
Indeed so, indeed so. Now I'm wondering, Sean Tapani, if you can check on what is the last lap that Andrea Ventura has visited the pit lane in. So he hasn't pitted so far according to our statistics.
Well, we've had enough cautions now that I think a full tank can make you to the end.
So, interesting. And it seems so far that Andrea Ventura is one of those drivers who started with full tanks, as Sean mentioned. And John Keefe as well, who is on the lead lap, has not yet had to pit. Other drivers are running a different strategy. They're running with less fuel, and as a result, they can be faster out there on the racetrack. But now that difference is effectively zeroed, because if they are planning to running with this fuel load to the end of the race, then I believe Andrea Ventura and John Keefe have the same amount of fuel, if they're going to make it to the end, than the drivers behind them, such as Bradley Walters, Arto Hämäki, Nathaniel Porter, Gernot Fritsch, David McDonald, and the other established front runners in this race so far. And
Sure.
my key question is tires.
That's
How
what
are
I
they
was
going
going
to
to bring
affect?
up.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to bring up because, like, in this series, the tires are very hard. They're not radial tires; they're bias ply. You don't usually change them, but in an oval, like, because we don't run ovals very much or at all, so it may give you a little bit of an advantage to have new tires. We're not really too sure what the effect's going to be, and actually, we're going to find out now.
Indeed so, indeed so. Those effects might be mighty big indeed. Also interesting to note is that I believe Mark Bickford has had either a very slow pit stop or some difficulties just before the pit stop, because he has lost a significant amount of positions going in at your race field. I believe so. Yes, he indeed. He is running at the 20th position, so maybe he came into the pit lane a little bit too hot.
Well, pit stops are another skill needed in an oval race. I was watching Gernot Fritsch. In his pit stop, he overshot it. He had to back up into it, and I think he lost his fourth position because of that.
So Mark Bickford's pit time was 10 seconds longer than anyone else's, which sounds either like a penalty or some damage repairs. Either way, Mark Pickford is running at the 20th position, and it's a shame that he lost so many positions because he was running very well up until that point. But I'm sure Mark Pickford may have to pace as he was running near the top 10 throughout your long green run, that he may be bringing some of those positions back into contention, and that means that Steve Salz, Keith Herner, Ian Card, and others are going to have to watch their mirrors very carefully indeed. Ian Card, another one who had lost a mighty amount of positions during the pit stops.
Now this is going to get interesting.
Indeed so. And they are underway. Andrea Ventura taking a very good start and able to get a little bit of free air between himself and Joachim Bodecker, who is already 5 laps down in this race. John Keefe trying to pass him going into turn number 1 and is able to do so, as is your established race leader Bradley Walters, who is now in the 3rd position. Arto Hemek getting through Mr. Bodecker as well, and Joachim is being very gentlemanly as always here with his mirrors and looking at the mirrors so far, as he has a lot of traffic behind him. And also David McDonald getting a good run now and going between Joachim Bodecker and Gernot Fritsch. Gernot Fritsch not getting a good exit at all, and David McDonald overtaking him up the middle and pinching up the middle 3 wide, and he gets the inside done into turn number 3. Very courageous move there from David McDonald. I'm sure he knew that Joachim is going to give him the way, and Gernot Fritsch has no interest on turning into him as well. So very good read by David McDonald, and as a result of that, he is able to get +1 position for himself. Now, what can Bradley Walters do here? On the inside, in turn number 1, trying to get past the driver of John Keefe, and he does so, but John Keefe challenging on the outside and not allowing Bradley Walters to get as good exit as he perhaps wants. Still side by side going through turn number 2 onto the long main straight, and they are still side by side, and I believe John Keefe has a little bit better speed. Oh, they almost touch. John Keefe trying to take the line out of him going into turn number 3. This could get hairy. And still side by side. Now John Keefe, oh, he loses it, and he spins, and he spins, and he goes into the wall. Into the wall goes John Keefe, and stop in the middle of the racetrack. Yellow flag is out, and John Keefe is able to keep going, and crucially, no one else was involved in that one. I believe what happened there to John Keefe is that he tried to get into the corner a little bit too hot, loses the back end of the race car as he had Bradley Walters on the inside, and as a result of that just goes into the wall. Very unfortunate for John Keefe, who was involved in a very, very heated and good battle with the established leader early on, Bradley Walters. Now, Bradley Walters is going to have the challenge of trying to get past Andrea Ventura ahead of him. Will be also interesting to see if someone is going to play the pit game this time by.
I don't think anybody would give up the track position to pit now, especially cautions are going to breed cautions. So, not sure. John Keefe must have had a really loose car because he lost it on the racing line.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe he was just coming in a little bit too hot, as I thought, coming a little bit too hot, turning in a little bit too late, or just trying to adjust his anti-roll bars a little bit stiffer in order to make that side-by-side racing work on the outside. He did very well on turns 1 and 2, but coming into turn number 3, he was a little bit too hot, and as a result of that, lost the car and ended up in the wall, which is a great shame indeed, because he was running in a very good position. Now my big question is, what is the game plan of Bradley Walters?
Well, and that's another thing, is like he may have had a good setup to run in the open without any cars in front of him, but he might not have a good setup to run in traffic. There's a difference between how you would, set up the car and then and an Indy car. There's kind of a difference. You take more wing, to handle being in a draft, or do you take less wing to be able to run out front? That's the setup dilemma.
Indeed so, and so maybe he had the plan of running in the front throughout the course of the race and not having to so-called race anybody, and as a result of that, he had a very fast car on the open air. But now Mr. Walters is behind Mr. Ventura in this race. Mr. Ventura, who is also graciously donating to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Make sure to give a donation if you want to support Mr. Ventura and the project of leading the way the world understands, treats, and defeats childhood cancer and other life-threatening diseases as well. So, I mean, my question is, who would not want to help understand what diseases children may have? Who would not want to help children? That is my question. And also,
It's a great cause.
Yeah, that is a great cause, as is the Brooke as well. So those buttons at the bottom of your stream, click them and donate to those good causes. I'm sure that your money will be well spent indeed if you want to support these fine charities who we of course run this race for. So I'm looking at the clock right now. The clock is going to be very important for the duration of this race. It reads 1 hour and 5 minutes elapsed time so far, but I believe we have to discount the time spent at the start waiting for drivers to grid up, as well as the initial pace lap of this race. So about 25 minutes left in this race. So I'm sure that at this point it is not going to be a 100 lap race, but rather a race that will run for some, and I mean some 30 laps at most, as the pace car has lights out. So how is that going to affect the tactics of the drivers? And who would be, how would you react to a situation? What was your game plan, Sean? Did you plan on a 100 lap race or did you plan on a timed race?
So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think any of them know this. I don't think that any of them realized it. I didn't realize. I thought he made the session for long enough to run the race. I didn't, and he'd probably never run a race of this type before, especially in Indianapolis where you have long cautions. So I don't think anybody knows.
Well, that's interesting.
It's a little bit unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Perhaps some drivers are now getting accustomed to the fact that this might be a timed race indeed. And as such, Tapani, how big of a shock must it be? I mean, and what can you do in the middle of a race if you have such a situation where you are unaware of the rules? How can you check those things?
You can't. Yeah, if you don't know them, you have to guess them. And
Yeah,
if you guess wrong, it's just tough luck. Yeah, it's a good thing to check them beforehand.
So
I think the only person who knows maybe would be Randy, and he's already out of the race.
Indeed. So that white flag 10 might come as a bit of a surprise to some of these drivers. As they are underway once again, the pace car is out of the way. So Andrea Ventura in the lead, Bradley Walters in the second place. Now we are going to be heavily focused on that battle among the leading positions now. David McDonald close behind Nathan Porter as well. Arto Hemaki now in the third place, relegated to the third place after running in the second position for so long in this race. Now I'm going to be interested to see what Bradley Walters will do here and what can Andrea Ventura do to defend against him. That is very important as well. Bradley Walters running very close behind Andrea now. Andrea still in the lead of your race at lap number 56 as they come towards lap number 57. Perhaps Bradley can do it already on the main straight. He has now seemingly done some adjustments to this car. Perhaps end-roll bars, perhaps something else that he can use now to run much faster behind another car. And he has good run going into turn number 1. He is up on the inside for the race lead. And it is Bradley Walters once again taking the race lead in his team Indiana livery, and as a result of that, Andrea Ventura is relegated to the second place now. Can he hold on? That is my question.
It was smart of Andrea to let him by. I
Yes.
think he didn't fight as hard or at all, and I think it's smart if he just like stays in his draft, maybe does the same thing to him, they can run away.
Indeed, and they are to some extent doing that so far already. Now it looks to me at the corners that Andrea Ventura isn't that much slower actually, or at all slower than Bradley Walters. And that is very interesting indeed, because they are now creating a huge gap between Arto Hämäki and now Andrea Ventura has to run on him, and oh, he goes to the inside for the race lead. Once again, we have a battle going on into turn number 1, and Andrea Ventura takes, no he doesn't, defending on the outside is Bradley Walters, and he can hold on, but This is very interesting indeed. We also have a yellow flag out there on the racetrack, ruining a very good battle, and it is Ian Card involved in that one, at least in turn number 1. It was Ian Card, Marko Kiikka, and Todd Herner running into turn number 1. Oh, Ian Card breaking early on the outside. Todd Herner not quite early enough. They crash into each other, both ending up in the wall. Todd Herner in the middle of the racetrack, Ian Card on the infield. And those two involved in that race, and a great shame, especially for Todd Herner, who was running so well in this race so far. Very well. Ian Card's chassis is also bent. Drivers apologizing to each other as a result of the incident. A very gentlemanly series this one indeed is, but Todd Herner seems to have taken a little bit less damage. Ian Card taking the brunt of the damage, but he is already bent up on the front wing and the rear wing. So, very unfortunate incident. Tapani, could you perhaps shine some light on that one?
Yeah, it was at a very tight spot. Three cars in a very small space. Well, slight misunderstanding or misjudgment of the relative speeds into the corner. I don't think it's much more than that. It's gonna happen.
Well, when you're in the drafting so close behind, you have to slow down and start turning before the other car starts, before the car in front. So
yeah, that's true.
that you can't go through people. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Not at all. I think the basic laws of physics will indicate that two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time.
Except some gauge bosons.
Really?
Yeah, like photons. They can
Oh.
occupy the same space at the same time. But baryons can't.
Okay, so Tapani, give us a physics lesson during the course of the caution.
No, you know, like electrons can't, photons can. It's the like I can't remember it. It's quantum physics basically.
So, can you explain to us quantum tunneling?
Yeah, because
Really?
if you take Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, you don't know the exact position of the particle, so basically there's a small chance it can appear on the other side of a wall, so to speak. It's a very elaborate, but relatively easy to calculate in one dimension situation.
Okay, then. I mean, that's great. That's great caution talk there, guys.
Yeah, I mean, usually during the cautions we would talk about the race, the conditions of the race, some very basic stuff. In here at Relativity we have quantum physics. So if you are wondering about which broadcaster you should choose to your upcoming series, remember, Relativity, we know quantum physics. So, there is their advertisement out of the way for broadcasting company as well. And don't forget to click those links below the broadcast to donate to very good causes indeed. Now, in a battle of Herners, it is now Keith Herner, the father Herner, the Herner senior, that is running in the 15th position because his son Todd was involved in the battle and now escapes the pit lane at the 20th position, last driver on the lead lap so far. But good to see these drivers also continuing to the end of the race despite having some technical and mechanical difficulties. Car not running 100%, but they are doing it for a very good cause. They want to finish the race at this point, and that is very great to see indeed.
It's too bad we got that caution because Bradley was fighting and managed to stay in the lead, but that would have brought all the other cars into the battle.
Indeed. And now Bradley is in the lead, so it's going to be interesting to see whether he can run away or not.
Andre is going to have a good free start. He's got to get right up to the back of him, and he's got to stay there. And because Bradley's going to go, as soon as his pace car goes in, he's going to go because that gives him the best advantage. Andre's got to close up, anticipate that, and be ready to get on the throttle.
Yep. So, Tapani, You also have some experience. How difficult are oval restarts?
Well, I'm not sure if they're difficult as such. You just have to be careful, not cause some accordion effects or get caught up in them. That's the harder part, I think. But otherwise, just go when the car in front of you goes. Don't try to anticipate it too much unless you know what you're doing.
Indeed so, and it seems to me that Andrea is leaving a big gap now in front of him.
Yeah, don't leave big gaps.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
situation right now is not good.
Yeah, and now he's closing up. Now he's closing up to the back of Bradley Walters. So let's see how he can anticipate the restart. Now, the gearing between these two drivers is also going to be important. The most important thing is how well can Andrea Ventura go and how well can he anticipate and when will Bradley Walters go. That is up to his decision. The pace car is out of the way and questions will be answered very soon. Indeed, Bradley Walters still waiting. Now gun in throttle. Andrea, losing a little bit too much of ground behind him. Arto Hämäki able to follow Andrea Ventura quite well. The pack is formed, but can Andrea Ventura hold on? That is the big question at this time. There are still some 10 or 15 laps, about 15 laps left in this motor race. So Andrea Ventura is a little bit less than a second away from the back of Bradley Walters so far. So it's gonna be depend on his first lap. How well can he nail this first lap? That is the question here, and it looks to me that he's able to catch up a little bit on the straight line. Bradley Walters, yeah. And 3 wide, also further back of your field, not longer. I believe that was between Toikka, Pawlowski, and Gernot Fridge as well. And those drivers at the outskirts of top 10. Angelika Pawlowski, I must mention briefly, has made himself a very good race indeed. It is starting from the 25th position, was 35th in the qualifying times. Now he is running in position number 8. And now Andrea is racing against Bradley Walters in turn number 1. Not quite able to get overtake done, but it looks to me right now that we have a race on our hands between Bradley Walters and Andrea Ventura. Now the question is, can Arto Hämäki and Nathaniel Porter and the others catch up? If so, we might have a really interesting battle going on here. Andrea Ventura entering the draft once again, doing 200 miles an hour at the end of the back. Meanwhile, it is also Philip Lake and Marko Kiikka battling it out, as is David McDonald and Nathaniel Porter, 45th position, and 44th position rather, I should correct myself. So what they want to do right now, Nathaniel Porter and David McDonald, is they want to get the fastest guy in the front. At the front of your field, once again, it is Andrea Ventura and Bradley Walters. Andrea has the inside going into turn number 1. Andrea holding his line very tight. Bradley Walters getting a better exit, but that exit of turn number 1 is treacherous and he almost hits the wall, but just able to avoid it. Not much of a difference there. Not much of a gap left between Bradley Walters and the wall, so Andrea Ventura is going to have to find something extra on his sleeves.
Bradley's really able to hold his line on the outside there, and it's he's got a really good setup for that. But they're going to slow themselves up if they keep battling like this.
Indeed so. They're going to slow themselves down a lot. Arto Hämäki now is looking to be in the prime position to benefit from that one. David McDonald, as he got past Nathaniel Porter, is now looking to catch up to Arto Hämäki as well. And now it looks to me that Andrea Ventura is content with running behind Bradley Walters into turn number 1. Not as such of a huge draft as it was on the previous laps. So Andrea Ventura might just be playing it safe, not going into every gap he sees, but rather playing the smart game. And he is a smart man, Tapani, so I believe that he has something up in his sleeve, looking to win this race. And he is in that position right now on the second place to benefit from the draft as best as he can. We should also bring the cameras to a battle further behind them, because it's Gernot Fridge, Angelika Pawlowski, and Teemu Toikka. And Teemu Toikka has now a good run on Angelika Pawlowski, who moves to the inside to defend. But we can see that you can't pass on the outside indeed, and Teemu Toikka is doing just that right now into turn number 1 on the outside, has a better run on the exit. Don't collect the ball, Teemu, and he doesn't. Gets the overtake done on the outside. Brave move from Teemu Toikka, taking the racing line into turn number 2, and that is the job's done and 1 more position. But Angelika has the run coming into the straight line. Once again, he has the draft, and as a result of that, he might be looking to bring his position back. So Teemu Toikka is having to defend so far. Incidentally, they're running side by side. These drivers having started from position 25 for Angelica and 27 for Teemu Toikka. And now Angelica is on the inside, coming into turn number 4. Teemu not leaving him very much room at all, and it is on the exit. They are still side by side. Very good battle going on between these two drivers who have battled their way throughout your race field and are right now battling for the 8th position in this race. Very respectable indeed, and Angelica still on the inside in the turn number 1. Now Teemu is able to take the racing line, and as a result of that, defend his position so far. But it's going to be interesting to see whether and even how could he break the draft. And Mark Pickford also having hit the wall very hard behind him, I believe, is the news from our spotters. No, it was not, so it was another driver either way. There's one driver who had some very big difficulties hitting the wall indeed. So we will bring you confirmation later on the identity of that driver who slammed the wall, and there is also a battle going on. Sean.
Looks like again, they went too wide through turns 1 and 2, and Bradley just got stuck up in front.
Andrea, be smart now. Lose the 3rd position guys behind and just work together for a few laps.
Yes, and that is a very good plan indeed, because now they want to get away from Arto Hämäki. They want to get away from David McDonald. But David McDonald and Arto Hämäki, they must be realizing at some point that, hey, these lead guys, they are battling it out. They are battling it out hard, and as a result of that, they can maybe catch up and fight for the lead themselves. But if they have the pace or not, that is going to be the question indeed now. We also have Todd Herner exiting the pit lane once again. He's exiting the pit lane after some more repairs, so it's good to see him still out there on the racetrack as Bradley Walters and Andrea Ventura get by him. But the question is right now that if Andrea is going to slow down a little bit, if Andrea and Teemu Toikka is also out of this race. So Teemu Toikka has hit the wall hard at turn number 1, at the exit of turn number 1. The driver who we had some support for in the chat hit the wall at the exit of turn number 1. The classic mistake at Indy, and as a result that has a lot of damage and is not able to keep the car going. The chassis was bent as a result of that 300 km/h impact with the wall. And still right now, Bradley Walters and Andrea Ventura battling it out side by side in turn number 1, and Bradley Walters defended the inside very gallantly indeed, but Andrea is able to hold on to the outside right now into turn number 2. Andrea leaving a lot of room indeed, allowing the racing line for Bradley Walters, but is able to still hold on to the draft lap times last time by.
If
Bradley
Andrea
Walters go on.
If Andrea wants to pass on the outside, he needs to pinch him down a little harder.
Yeah.
He's a little bit too close to the wall when he does that.
A little bit too cautious, perhaps.
I think he's just looking at this point and maybe planning the final move at the end of the race.
Yeah, he wants to see what is the game plan of Mr. Bradley Walters and play accordingly. Now, it looks to me, last time by actually, Arto Hämäki was able to be a little bit faster, but only 1/10 of a second. The gap is 2 seconds. So I believe it is going to be, barring a major battle, a battle between Andrea Ventura and Bradley Walters for the race win here. But it's very, very refreshing to see Andrea Ventura find his pace in this race. He qualified in the 16th position, remember. And right now has one of the fastest race cars out there on the track, is battling for the win. And this goes to show you that Andrea Ventura, despite his inconsistent performances sometimes out on the racetrack, perhaps due to lack of time to practice or something, can be very, very fast indeed. He goes on the outside once again going into turn number 1. He is ahead, but will he be ahead exiting turn number 1? He gives just enough room, and they are side by side once again, but he should be able to clear himself. Yes, he is, as they come to the chute, and he could be taking the racing line in turn 2, and he spins, and they touch, and Bradley Walters and Andrea Ventura are both involved in that one. Andrea Ventura just losing his race car. Bradley Walters is damaged, yellow flag is out, and now it's a question of time. Wow.
Unfortunate.
That is a very sad ending to what was such a great battle. Sorry for the viewers whose ears I might have just broken, but that was a surprise. Because Andrea Ventura was able to hold his line for so well on the outside, then he just lost it a little bit, turning too hard on the inside. And once he tried to apply the brakes to save the car, they just made the spin worse. And he also can't help himself but to be collected by the car of Bradley Walters as well.
It would have been enough if he had hung back until the last lap and would have done the same move there, because he was ahead at the start-finish line. So just exiting the turn 4 a bit faster and catching the draft and going side by side would have been enough for the final lap, but he wanted
Well,
that.
I think it was the nature of the beast there. I think the race is going to be over pretty soon. But I think what Andrea was doing, he had to loosen his car up to go around the outside and not hit the wall. And I think that bit him in the end.
Yeah, he had to be a bit looser driving behind and trying to pass.
Well, especially on the outside, because if you're understeer, you're just going to slide into the wall. But if you loosen your car up, stiffen the back, loosen the front, I'm pretty sure that's why he spun out. So you have to be really precise with your movements. You move the wheel too much, then it's pretty much over.
An interesting note I should point out is about Mr. Bradley Walters, is that he is in fact working as an art director and senior designer for Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it makes sense that he would know this track quite well. So yes, we do our research here at Trailer TV, even though that might not be the case always. So some information, some tidbits of information about these drivers. So the running order, if it does finish under yellow, which looks to be quite likely at this point, is Bradley Walters is looking to win this race ahead of Arto Ihamäki. David McDonald is running in the provisional third position ahead of Nathaniel Porter, Kartik Pai, Gernot Fritz sixth. Then it's Angelica Pawlowski, Nuno Moreira, Marco Kiikka, and Philip Lake rounding out your top 10. A special shout out goes to Angelica Pawlowski, starting 25th, right now looking to finish in the 7th position. What a run.
Yeah, and Arto Ihamäki has done a very consistent job keeping himself in the top few positions behind Bradley.
Indeed, which is very interesting because we heard some rumors that he might not be at all interested in the concept of oval racing, but perhaps he should give it a shot.
Well, especially Indy is different. Indy's not oval racing; it's like oval road racing, you know.
Yeah, that is true. Kind of like Pocono in that sense.
But then, obviously, I'm in America. Indy is a pretty big deal. Although I'm not from Indianapolis, those people are fanatics. I'm sure Bradley's a fanatic, but.
Well, yeah, it would make sense. He does it for a living. Literally. Or graphically, in this case. So, what would be if the race would be to end here? What would be some of the things, Tapani, that you would point out from this race? Perhaps, who is your driver of the race so far, and who would be the performer of the race?
Well, before that accident, I would have said Bradley and Andrea, but Bradley has been very fast and consistent throughout the whole race, leading almost all the time. Andrea did a very good job with a pit strategy to get into the second place and then fight for the lead, but it was not to be. From the others, of course, Angelica has from 25 P10 to 7th. That's a very good job. And as I said, Arto has had a good run, although not quite the same pace as the.
So,
is
interesting
it
news.
the green white?
So, we have the lights are out on the pace car, just interesting development so far, and
Bradley is damaged.
yeah, Bradley is damaged. That's the interesting note. Bradley is damaged, and we have lights out on the pace car and no white flag yet. So what I do believe is going to happen here is a one-lap shootout.
Yeah, green white.
No, not a green-white checker. That's a two-lap shootout.
Oh, that's a two. Oh, you're right.
Get your NASCAR terms correct.
Yeah, I'm not an oval driver.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you know about quantum physics, I know about NASCAR. Okay, the pace car is starting to get out of the way, either way. Sorry for the confusion here, we are a bit confused about this time form as well. And Bradley Walters gets a very, very good start indeed, but how long can he hold on? That is the interesting thing I would like to point out at this. Can he hold on, and if so, how well?
Got to a bad start. But he should be able to catch him here.
Indeed so, the car is damaged. Now, can we have a confirmation from race control whether there is a white flag in the air or not? Nope. Okay, so we don't know if this final lap or race. Either way, they're going side by side. They're 3 wide for the race lead here. David McDonald on the outside. And there is Arto Ihamäki on the inside as well. Now, who will take the position going into? I believe that was Arto Ihamäki indeed. No, it was actually David McDonald on the outside. I lost my car there for a moment. So, David McDonald on the outside making a fine move indeed. That was reminiscent from the roadside of Spa 2000. Mika Häkkinen, Ricardo Zonta, and Michael Schumacher. Now he is coming up to the white flag, and David McDonald wins this race, and it's drag race for the second position, and it was
Race over.
so there is the race over, and David McDonald wins your motor race. Sorry for the confusion at last lap, but what a move it was by him on the back straight. I believe Natalia Porter snatched the second position away from Arto Ihamäki by the gap of 1/1000th of a second. That is Indy at its finest. Kardec Pai finishing in the 4th place ahead of Angelica Pawlowski, Gernot Fritsch 6th, Nuno Moreira and Bradley Walters. Result of that damage relegated to the 8th place after either leading or running close to the lead for the main portion of your race. Wow.
Oh, that was an ending.
Yeah, that was an ending.
It was a great move by David.
Indeed, if you could get a replay from the back straight on your screens, that would be great. But David McDonald getting a very, very magnificent run onto the outside. He was running so much faster than Arto Ihamäki. Of course, Bradley Walters, as a result of his damage, was nowhere near at their speeds. And then David McDonald just turning into the outside. As Arto Ihamäki was on the inside, Arto had to lift in order not to hit David McDonald. And from there on out, it was just David McDonald coming up to the flag. And that was very, very well timed by David McDonald, who, as a result of that, wins your classic Lotus Indy 250 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This special charity event won by David McDonald ahead of Natalia Porter. And if we have a podium here, we don't usually at oval races, but let's pretend that we do. Arto Ihamäki will be running out your podium at the 3rd position. Kardec Pai finishing his brilliant performance here at the 4th place. Then it's Angelica Pawlowski at the 5th. Gernot Fritsch 6th place. Then it's Nuno Moreira, Bradley Walters, Marco Kiika, and Philip Blake. Rounding out your top 10 other finishers include Steve Sarles 11th, Keith Herner in the 12th position, David Acevedo 13th, Gerd Hofer 14th, Lynn Kinchlow, Mark Pickford, Andrea Ventura, Todd Herner, Joachim Bodecker, and Barry West rounding out your top 20. And then it is the retirees from this race. Teemu Toikka, Alex Milward, Ian Cart, John Keefe, Pierre Bourdon, Brenton Packard, Rafael Sempruf, Teemu Rönkö, Fabian Gerber, Garrett Hickling, Sam Winton, Iku Merikalla, Kalle Ruokala, Sean Wiltshire, Randy Hatches, and Kane Lasky. So from your 36 driver field, 16 were able to finish on the lead lap of this race. Very reminiscent of the real life Indy 500s as well. And we are going to have, I believe, driver interviews for you very soon. But Sean, your driver of the race.
My driver of the race is going to have to go to Bradley. He dominated the race, and the reason why he's not on the podium right now is because it was not even his fault. So I got to go with him. And then a good shout out to Arto and David for giving us a great ending. Arto was consistent all race. and David was always in the mix. So those are my top 3.
Indeed so, and I do believe I have to check on that fact later, but there is something special also in store for the podium finishers, courtesy of your race organizers as well. But first, let's run you one more time the thank yous from this race, and remember St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Remember to donate, as well as to the Brooke helping working donkeys and other equines in winter conditions. Also, big shout out to SD Truck Interiors, as well as our other sponsor, which happened to be Hydrogen Carbon Clean, optimizing engine performance. I'm sorry for a little bit of freezing. I just received some additional information regarding our race procedures as well. So those guys, big shout out to them. Without you, there would be no broadcast whatsoever. And as we still are waiting for the drivers for an interview, I should remind you about the next season of, as we are watching the last lap from David McDonald's point of view, I should remind you that sign up for the Classic Lotus Grand Prix for the next season and sign up for the Classic Team Championship as well. As usual, now we have 12 weeks that are going to be broadcasted Sundays, 4:30 p.m. GMT at this very same address. So these drivers now battling each other on the road courses around the world, and the first week as Suzuka Tapani, I believe you have done multiple laps of practice for that already. How would you describe running the Suzuka with this car?
Oh, it's very technical and difficult to go fast. If you want to go fast, you have to tune the car very aggressively, in the sense that it's on the edge at some points of the track. Well, it's a driver's track too, so it's a combination of the setup skills and the driver's skills. It's one of the, I think, more difficult tracks for the car.
Yes, indeed, and we also have information that is actually was confirmed already before that, but had to check on some facts regarding that from Mr. Stuart Dick, as the Truck Interiors, who has offered and will kindly send a CDC logo embroidered car seat pillow, which is going to the race winner. So that is Mr. David McDonald, who is going to receive gifts. And in addition to that, there are also included 3 quality polo shirts, also with the CDC graphic and logo, going to the podium finishers of this race. So that will be David McDonald, Nathaniel Porter, and Arto Ihamäki, receiving some new clothes for that, and honorary prizes for them as well. And another honorary prize will be going to Mr. Gernot Fritsch for all his help, providing setups, providing driving instructions, and being the one of actually the most respected driver in this series for so many years. He will receive one of those as well, courtesy of SD Truck Interiors, which I should point out right now. And just goes to show you what a gentlemanly series this is. It's like, you know, that movie about or a TV series about the League of bad behaving men behaving badly. This is exactly the opposite of that. This is men behaving well and driving race cars very, very fast indeed.
It's like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yes, it would be. That was the movie I was thinking of. But the name happened to escape me at that point. And also, in some cases, at least the pace of some drivers, the League of Extraterrestrial Gentlemen as well.
So, are we getting any interviews?
No.
Still waiting. So.
Yeah, still waiting for interviews, but as it looks like right now that we are not going to get any driver interviews, which is a shame. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who was watching. Everybody who was watching. And final reminder of the good causes we are doing this for. So remember the Brooke and remember St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Every penny helps these great causes going forward. Also make sure to check out heroesforever.org. So heroes were as well helping supporting cancer survivors and people who have families affiliated with cancer in Colorado and the nearby areas. So thank you, Tapani Lindaluoto, as well as Sean Wiltshire, for joining me in the broadcast booth today.
We have one interview.
Well, that happens sometimes. We actually have two drivers joining us for the interviews. So as I was about to lose all hope, which I do sometimes, I believe, a little bit too early, but as I was just about to lose hope, remember still those great causes. We have interviews coming up from both Nathaniel Porter and Mark Pickford, and I believe, Sean, that we are going first with the organizer of this event, Mr. Mark Pickford.
Hello, guys.
Hello,
How's it been?
and welcome to the broadcast booth.
Can you guys hear me? I've not used TeamSpeak before.
Yeah, you're good, Mark. So, how was the event? Like, thanks for putting it on. We all appreciate it. Thanks for setting up the charities and all the groundwork that goes with setting up this kind of event. I know it's a little hard to do, and you don't have like every detail just right, and something goes wrong. But I think it went well. What was your take on it?
Well, firstly, I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting and everybody for turning up. That was the main thing, just that everybody had fun, and we raised a little bit for a couple of fantastic charities. I had a great time, screwed up the fuel and things like that, and there was far too many cautions, but as long as everybody had a good time, that's the main thing. And it was a really good close. I'm glad we got the green at the end, you know, that last run down, but that was a shame for Bradley to lose it at the last minute like that.
Yeah, and I know like ovals aren't like the norm for this car, and I think that everyone pretty much handled it pretty well. And there was a little few issues, and I was involved in one of those, but you know, it happens. It's racing. But what do you think about other ideas like in the future, week 13s? Like if we could make this like a bicentennial or biannual or annual race, maybe somewhere else, maybe at a road track, something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I mean, I thought, I always speak out in the forums about doing silly tracks that are inappropriate for the car, but I enjoy racing with this car so much, and the guys that race it regularly are top members as far as I'm concerned on the whole service. So it's just nice to do something different, isn't it? Might be a little long to wait a whole 12 months to do it again, so maybe biannually would be ideal, yeah.
So speaking of the race, I noticed you had a little bit of problems. You might have hit the wall a little hard there. Um, that that understeer is pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I think that probably led to most of the yellows, and I haven't had a chance to see any of the replay yet. But yeah, when you get tucked up behind someone, some of us discovered it in practice that it'll just push you straight into the wall if you follow someone into, especially turn one. You just got to ease off. But yes, we all had to rely on pretty much the same setup work. None of us are really used to turning left, are we? But it was good fun, but it was treacherous, that understeer. But I guess that kept it interesting. Would it be boring if we could just floor it and cruise around in the draft? That would probably be worse, I think.
Well, I think that that's one thing that people maybe don't know about Indianapolis is that it's not just floor and turn left. There's a lot of skill involved in getting around. But I'd like to thank you again for putting on this show, for getting everything organized. And if you'd like to say anything to any of your friends or family or whatever, give a shout out. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, brilliant. Once again, thanks to everybody for coming. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll put a post in the forum to update everyone on how much we've managed to raise. And thank you, everyone. And peace and love to everybody.
Thank you for the interview, Mr. Mark Pickford, and thank you for organizing such a fantastic event for such great causes. And next we have the man who managed to finish in the end at the second of positions by the skin of his teeth. Quite literally, Nathaniel Porter, congratulations on your second place and welcome to the broadcast booth. Very quiet, man, this. So seems like there is some issues with the sound quality. We'll try to get that sorted out for you as soon as possible. Tapani, in the meanwhile, tell us more about quantum physics.
Oh yes, as I was telling, any bosons, which is a particle with an integer spin, any one number of them can occupy the same space at the same time. And the normal kind of particles, like the ones made up of quarks, normal matter, they can't. It's the Pauli exclusion principle that any like an electrons, they can't occupy the same quantum state. Is that enough?
That's quite fascinating indeed. There was a request from the chat, more quantum physics, please. Particle physics, please.
Well, if you want, I can link the equation of the Lagrangian function for the standard model of particle physics. It fits just in one A4 paper. It's a quite nice equation at that, because it fits on one paper.
Indeed, so, and that is very interesting indeed. There seems to be some difficulties with the microphone that we have on our broadcast, and its connection towards us. So, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to bring the interview of Mr. Nathaniel Porter on the chat live, on the live, at least not vocally, but we are trying to do something different. Something different then. But anyway, Mr. Nathaniel Porter has kindly joined us in the broadcast booth and was ready for an interview, but he finished in the second position. Either way, I'm sure he must be happy about that one. And one more thing before we end the broadcast, Tapani Linoloto, I would like you to explain the problem with the double slit experiment.
That would take a few minutes and a bit of preparation, but it's it's very interesting kind of experiment where the different logic of quantum physics can be shown, because it doesn't follow the normal kind of everyday logic at all. Because if you basically, it means that the photons or any particles, when you have two slits very close to each other, basically the particle goes through both of them at the same time. And if you close one of the slits, the whole thing behaves differently than if you have the both slits open. The particle interferes with itself and causes a interference pattern behind the slits.
Fascinating.
But the proper explanation would take some time, and well, I can link a good explanation if people want it.
Well, you can do that on the chat. Meanwhile, I don't think we advertised lectures about quantum physics and particle physics in our broadcast. So I'm sorry, I won't ask those questions no more. And as fascinating as it is, I think it's time to bring this broadcast to an end. So thank you to Tapani Linoloto and Sun Wiltshire as well for joining me in the broadcast booth on this one. And as always, massive thank you and a shout out goes to our lovely man behind the cameras doing the work of 5-man Eero Husa Forsblom. Thank you to everyone for watching. Remember the great causes that this benefited. So Ted Brooke, as well as St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. For that, I wish you a very lovely holiday time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
here is where the drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sandobi hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Pilecki goes dives on the right side. Very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys. Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Pilecki. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. You know, it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the left car and around those at the same time. At the same time, he's got the inside corner of Willie ride curb. Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Nuna Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will cook the grass a little. A 180, no, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernald. Gernald will yield. Lots of smoke picking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish.